So in this segment, we're going to be talking about China essentially kicking out journalists, and specifically in this case, John Sudworth. He has moved to Taiwan after alleged threats from the Chinese government. So John Sudworth has done great work when it comes to what's happening with the Uyghur Muslims, and obviously the Chinese government are not happy about it. Hence why he's seen threats, and they can argue, it's not come from anyone, at the top and stuff like that. But generally, when you see stuff like this, it can only mean one thing, and no one stepped in for him when he was having issues. So it does tell you that most likely it is from the top down. So, the BBC's Beijing correspondent John Sudworth has left China and moved to Taiwan following pressure and threat from the Chinese authorities. Sudworth, who won an award for his reporting on the treatment of Uyghur people in the Xinjiang region, left Beijing with his family. The BBC says it is proud of his reporting and he remains its China correspondent. Obviously, he's going to have issues because he's moving to Taiwan and he might not be able to talk to people as much. So that's going to be quite interesting to see what happens with that. Sudworth has been based in China for 9 years, says he moved to Taiwan after it became increasingly difficult to remain in China. So we've got video from Sudworth.
We have been facing this kind of pressure because of our coverage of subjects and stories that China doesn't want us to cover, at least not in the independent way that we have. But in recent months, there's been an intensifying propaganda campaign targeting not just the BBC, but me personally and my work in particular. There have been legal threats and as well as that, an intensifying attempt to obstruct and harass us whenever and wherever we film. And as a result of these rising risks and increasing difficulties, the decision was made that after tolerating it for so long, we should relocate.
And so the thing is, right, he's got no real reason to lie here because he is moving out of China, the place where he does his reporting. So that's going to make his life more difficult. When it comes to legal threats, which court is going to rule against, in the favour of independent journalists? Like, none of them are going to do that. So it's ridiculous to think that, that this guy won't be punished if it does go to court. So you can see why he's having issues. Anytime he goes to film, he gets harassed. It might be by, people, just general people within China. They might see him, maybe his pictures on like WeChat or Weibo or whatever the hell they use. And, they're saying, this guy, he hates China, blah, blah, blah. He's spreading lies, harassing and stuff. So it's hard to know how far up this goes, but I'm assuming it goes pretty high. So he and his family, so Sudworth and his family, were followed to the airport and into the check-in area by plainclothes police officers. So if they're saying that, if China, like they claim in this article, that, they didn't even know there was any issues, blah, 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 why is he being followed by plainclothes police officers? Like, that seems really sus. His wife, Yvonne Murray, I think that's how you pronounce her name, reports on China for the Irish public broadcaster RTE, so she's had to move as well. So that must be a pain for her, but obviously, family comes first. Sudworth says he and his team face surveillance threats of legal action, obstruction and intimidation wherever they try to film. And so, look, you can see the Chinese, clearly, just, people within the Chinese government did not like this guy. His reporting colleagues are still in Beijing, and he says he intends to continue his reporting from Taiwan. So good luck with that, man, because it's going to be very difficult for you to get information, and obviously he won't be able to film. So it's going to cause him a lot of problems. A Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson said, only in recent days, when we were faced with the task of renewing Sudworth's press card, did we learn Sudworth left without saying goodbye. I mean, he doesn't have to say goodbye to you. He doesn't owe you anything. After he left the country, he didn't by any means inform the relevant departments, nor provide any reason why. I mean, why does he have to inform anyone? He's a member of the press. Like, he should be able to leave if he wants to. Like, it's just a ridiculous statement from a ridiculous country. In its statement, the BBC said, John's reporting has exposed truths the Chinese authority did not want to know. The number of international media organizations reporting from China is shrinking. Last year, China expelled correspondents for the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. Three, news companies that can do incredibly good investigative journalism when they want to. So you can see here that clearly, something is going on in China, that they do not want Western investigative journalists within China. he's not the only one who's been pushed out. And in September, the last 2 reporters working in China for Australian media flew home after a 5-day diplomatic standoff. The Foreign Correspondents Club of China says foreign journalists are being caught up in diplomatic rows out of their control. So this is normally between nation states. So if you think about it right now, China is in kind of a dispute with the EU, the UK, the US and Canada over sanctions with certain people that are working within the Uyghur camps. Right, Chinese people working within the Uyghur camps, and China have hit back against certain people in the West, and certain journalists, because that happened recently, they might have put more pressure on Sudworth to leave because of the diplomatic spat between the countries, and obviously the EU, which is not a country. And if we go here, there's a bit more on it where the EU sort of condemn. The EU claims China is driving out journalists from China. And if we continue looking here, the EU has accused China of harassing foreign correspondents after the BBC's Beijing correspondent John Sudworth was forced to leave Taiwan. China, which has denounced the BBC's coverage of Xinjiang, said it was unaware of any threat to Sudworth. Yeah, of course, mate. Yeah, sure. Okay. Other than possible legal action to challenge his reporting on the region. So, a legal action can be seen as a threat, but, to put it in the same context with, his Sudworth claiming there are threats is a bit strange. Sudworth has written a bit here which is fairly basic, but, it's fairly obvious for people who know what's going on. So, he says the irony, of course, that at the same time that the space of foreign journalism is shrinking in China, the Communist Party has been investing heavily in its media strategy overseas, taking full advantage of the easy access to a free and open media. Obviously, Western countries typically do allow media companies from foreign companies to be on cable TV. RT, I think they're still on cable in the UK. I'm not sure, but in America they did have to register as a foreign agency or foreign group or something like that. So, but they can still broadcast. Whilst China can revoke any access for the BBC if they want to, if it can be on Chinese television and streaming services. So. It's a wolf. So he goes on to say it's wolf warrior diplomats unleash furious tweet storms bombasting foreign reporting while denying their own citizens access to those foreign platforms. Obviously, one of the key weaknesses in the idea of liberalism or libertarianism is that by allowing something like free speech, you give oxygen to people like those these dodgy characters within China and obviously around the world to spout nonsense, and you can't stop them because it goes against your core belief of having free speech. And so that's the strategy they use, where they don't allow free speech for their own citizens, but they allow it for themselves to go after foreign countries, leaders and politicians, etc. So that's something I hope people in China see more, that they are not free to criticize certain people, but those same diplomats within their countries use freedom of speech within Western countries to criticize them, whilst if you did the same thing in China, you could get put in jail. So, it might be interesting. Hopefully more sort of people within China see that and understand it. So there's here, state media propagandists publish and post their content overseas without restrictions. That's not, they can, there are things that can be done about that sort of stuff. But typically it's not done. Normally media outlets from countries, even Press TV gets a pass most of the time. China ruthlessly shuts down independent reporting, censors foreign broadcasts on websites, and blocks foreign journalists from its own social media networks. I know people within China can't access websites like The Guardian, so also they're not allowed Code Geass over there and other shows which sort of glorify rebellion and change. So it does show you how kind of scared the Chinese government are of sort of outside thoughts. So what did the EU say exactly? A spokesperson for EU foreign policy chief Joseph Borrell said at least 18 correspondents have been expelled from China last year. The EU repeatedly expressed its concerns to the Chinese authorities at the undue working restrictions imposed on foreign journalists and reported related harassment, the spokesperson said. finally the article says they said the EU stood up for the role of independent and reliable media all around the world and called upon China to abide by its obligations under national and international law to ensure freedom of speech and press. Obviously, they're carrying out a genocide and ethnic cleansing of Uyghur Muslims. So I don't think they care about press freedoms. To be honest, they never did. What can we gather from this is that China are pushing more aggressively to push out Western independent journalists out of China, whether that's directly through kind of aggression and intimidation or through other means, to the point where the BBC's China correspondent felt like he was unsafe and had to leave China and fled to Taiwan. So we can also see that China use things like Twitter, social media to go after opponents of China and people that criticize China, but also use social media to try and defend China, whilst at the same time they will not give the same apps to people within China and will not give Chinese people the kind of freedom of speech that they use to attack Western countries. So, very interesting stuff here. I do feel sorry for Sudworth. I feel like he's done good work in this sense, but he's not done anything that's like sort of, like not groundbreaking, but, he hasn't exposed, the world being run by lizard people or something like that. This is pretty, stuff that we've known for a while now about, about what's going on in China with the Uyghur Muslims, and so in that respect, I don't know if he was the first one to actually report on it, and the first one who exposed the story, but we knew from people that escaped that area, escaped China, that they told us what was going on. I don't know if that happened before sort of Western outlets reporting on this. I'm not 100% sure, but what we can gather is that things are not looking rosy in China, and China are getting very annoyed at free press for exposing their actions within Xinjiang. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.